Hi, great to see everybody today. My name's Sasha Brunelle, and I work for Nature's Path Foods. At Nature's Path, we have been committed to transforming the health of the planet through organic foods for over 30 years. And I'm very honored to be here today to represent and present these phenomenal panelists for our next session called Unlocking Canada's Production Potential. So first up, we have Eva-Lena Lang. She's the Executive Director of Organic BC, the provincial network of organic certifiers, farmers, processors, and consumers advocating for organic in British Columbia. Eva-Lena is a trained network builder and brings a depth of authentic insight from a broad range of experiences, including having grown up on an organic ranch to sitting on the BC Minister of Agriculture's advisory group on regenerative agriculture and agri-tech. Next, we have Marla Carlson. She is the Executive Director of SaskOrganics, a farmer-led membership nonprofit organization serving all organic entities throughout the value chain in Saskatchewan. With a deep commitment to organics and the decolonization of the food system in the Canadian prairies, Marla is a multi-award-winning leader. She sits on various boards, including serving as the president of Organic Connections, the largest organic farming conference in Western Canada, and is on the board of the Prairie Organic Development Fund. Finally, we have Jérôme-Antoine Brunelle. He is the Organic Agriculture Development Coordinator for the Union des producteurs agricoles, the only official body that speaks on behalf of all Quebec farm and forestry producers. He is an agricultural economist and agronomist that has been working in the agricultural and agri-food sector for more than 20 years. He coordinates organic production development efforts where he supports producer groups in implementing initiatives in their respective sectors. We look forward to hearing their insights on Canada's organic production potential. Welcome.
Morning. Thank you to Paul and Leigh for your amazing presentations, really inspiring. And thank you, Tia, for inviting me. It's my first time in Ottawa, so I'm quite excited to be here and meet many people I've met and worked with over the last 3 years now. Finally get to meet you in person. As mentioned, I'm Eva-Lena Lang. I'm the Executive Director of Organic BC. I work and live on the unceded territory of the Secwépemc and Suk First Nations. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you today. So first, I'm just going to share a little bit about our organization. Organic BC is a thriving and diverse network of innovators and leaders with decades of success in organic agriculture, a community of certification bodies, producers, processors, and handlers of all scales and commodities. The organization was started in 1993 thanks to a passionate, visionary group of BC farmers who formed a society to develop one of the first organic standards and programs in the country, the BC Certified Organic Program. These pioneers were then instrumental in helping develop the National Canadian Organic Standards in 2007, and many continue to be involved in the standards revision process today. Since 1993, we have been the designated administrator of the BC Certified Organic Program and have offered accreditation to the Canada Organic Regime as a CFIA-approved conformity verification body. In 2021, we rebranded from the Certified Organic Associations of BC to Organic BC, and I love introducing myself now and saying Organic BC instead of 5 additional words, and so that we could better reflect our values and mission of representing and supporting all players in the provincial organic sector. This year marks the organization's 30th anniversary, and we have recently celebrated that milestone with a hugely successful 3-day conference, the BC Organic Conference, just 2 weeks ago. In BC, we are known for the diversity of our 200+ farm products raised and grown amongst the mountain ranges and in the diverse ecosystems that characterize our province. Relative to the rest of Canada, British Columbia's agriculture sector is quite small, yet its role is critical. BC currently has about 525 primary organic producers and 325 organic processors and handlers. Trade data shows that BC has the second highest organic import figures in the country and the second highest per capita consumption, while exports from BC only account for 4.2% of total Canadian organic exports. And there's opportunity to decrease our import figures and increase our organic production within the province because the demand is there. Despite the growth of organics, I'm just going to share a bit of the challenges. Oops. Despite the growth of organics worldwide, there's much more work to do. Supply chain disruptions, global inflation, rising costs, and the impacts of climate change have huge impacts on farmers and the security of our food system. The past 4 years in BC are evident of that. I started my work as executive director one week before the pandemic started, and since then, the province has been hit with crisis after crisis. BC has recently become an epicenter of climate change-fueled extreme weather in Canada. In the last 3 years, BC farmers have suffered through drought, extreme heat, flooding, and fires. Smoke too, which has been a problem with an increasing number of smoky days that pose health risks to farm workers, animals, and damage crops by reducing the number of sunny days. In 2021 alone, extreme weather events cost BC approximately $17 billion. The flooding 2 years ago was the biggest agricultural disaster in BC's history. Last week, it was the 2-year anniversary, so heard a lot about those stories again. More than 1,100 farms, 15,000 hectares, and 2.5 million livestock were affected by those floods. Severe losses were incurred by dairy, poultry, swine, beef, horticulture, and fruit and vegetable growers, as well as land-based fish producers. Many people lost their entire farms and livelihoods. It cut off all road and rail routes between Metro Vancouver and the rest of Canada, seriously disrupting food supply chains in BC and Alberta, and to some extent further east for many weeks. And repair and recovery is ongoing. On the other extreme, we've had drought and fire. The endless hot, dry weather made drought conditions worse. Many farmers were unable to feed their cows, and animal feed was around double to triple the normal price. Producers have to make decisions about whether they have to reduce their herd size with significant loss to breeding stock. And there's personal stories in the room today. British Columbia is experiencing severe drought levels and unprecedented conditions around the province. Still a major concern as of today in November. BC has experienced its 4 most severe wildfire seasons on record during the past 7 years. This year, wildfires scorched just over 22,000 square kilometers of land in the province, making it the worst wildfire season on record and creating serious problems for farm animals as well. Although all farmers in BC are facing challenges, the organic sector needs support now more than ever. For many years, organic farmers have proven that climate-friendly agriculture is possible, and their resilience and adaptability to climate change is evident due to the diversity of operations, effective management practices, and local markets. For instance, at the start of the pandemic, when grocery store shelves were empty, many organic farmers were able to supply products in their local communities. When the devastating floods happened 2 years ago, major linkages were closed, but the organic community was able to pivot and ensure the product made it to consumers. Anorganic farms, with their soil protected by cover crops, were some of the farms that could withstand the flood damage. Currently, national and provincial funding is focused on regenerative and sustainable agriculture, in particular to meeting climate change mitigation targets. This funding often excludes organic operators from eligibility because they are already using regenerative practices. Organic producers have to pay to farm ecologically, but then don't have access to the government funding to help them weather challenges or expand their operations because they're already doing the work. These programs should support ongoing innovation and improvement for organic producers. We are in a critical period to make sector-wide change, and we need strong leadership that will recognize the importance of organic agriculture in Canada. We need to support farmers to transition to more organic practices while maintaining the integrity of organics. I continue to be inspired by the investment in organics around the world and believe that the organic principles, standards, and certification have a critical role to play in increasing food security in our regions. I'm just going to share a little bit about the way we work with government. The provincial organic program, based on the Canadian organic standards, continues to benefit the many farms that reflect BC's diverse geography. The BC program is only available for products marketed within provincial borders. Peer-to-peer mentoring and lower costs support new and transitioning farmers of all scales to become certified. Some of these farms may eventually choose to expand their markets and become certified to the core. And aquaculture was added to the scope in 2020. The BC Ministry of Agriculture wants to see our organization continue to thrive, and we have received funding to support an organizational review and restructuring project. We strongly advocate for organic policies at the provincial level, and this is an ongoing task. We are fortunate to work closely with an organic specialist in the Extension branch. And in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, we've been focused on extension activities across the province by producing a series of podcasts the past 3 years and hosting in-person and virtual field days focused on regenerative practices. Last winter, to support peer-to-peer learning and community building, we partnered with various communities to co-organize and host regional learning and networking events. These were well received and will be ongoing. We work collaboratively with partners across the province to create a strong food system in a changing climate. And with our government, we are focused on increasing food security, aggregation, and production capacity, often sitting on working groups or committees. You should ask Tristan later how many working groups or committees he is a part of right now and has been in the past. We are also members of a provincial industry association, the BC Agriculture Council, and work tirelessly to ensure the voice of organics is heard at that table. And they're a 28-member organization made up of various commodity groups. We continue to build relationships across government and across commodities, but the organic sector continues to be siloed, although we hold the depth of knowledge and to enable the wholesale shift to lower emissions, healthier soil, and ecosystems farming practices. Oops, I think I may have missed a slide, but that's okay because it's just images. But one more slide about opportunity. So this sector and organization are unique for its community. We work with care and consideration with our own regions to build trust, ensure alignment, and foster collaboration. And every provincial organization plays a key role in establishing relationships and trust at a grassroots level. There's an opportunity with a national organic plan to deeply understand the geographic, economic, and political diversity of Canada's agricultural regions, and to represent all regions and ensure all voices are heard equally at the federal table. Understanding the good work being done at the provincial and territorial level is key for a national organization's success. Each province is unique and faces our own challenges, but the one thing we all have in common is that each region's organic sector is underfunded. Advocating for strong organic policies tied to ongoing funding would hugely benefit the sector. Organic production methods increase resiliency against natural disasters, improve soil health, biodiversity, mitigate climate change, and support healthy food for healthy people. Let's make sure our elected representatives and policymakers understand how our sector meets those broader goals. We have an opportunity to increase our partnerships and help support provincial networks and resources to reduce silos and increase synergies. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Hard to follow that. Wow. It's like what she said, except not really in Saskatchewan. And I'm just wondering, can I take this off or can I have a mic that's because I always Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Need to turn it off though.
Green light, I think Jerome did that.
No, it was on.
Yeah. Oh,
Battery
it's
might
on?
run out.
Battery might, well, that's okay. I talk too long usually anyway, so give me a mic and look out. Okay, I'm Marla Carlson, Executive Director at SaskOrganics. Just a little bit about my background. I've worked in the industry for 17 years in the province. I first started working at a small organic domestic fair trade certified farmers co-op. So I always say that like that made me a true believer, right? Like I'm one of the true believers in organic and fair trade. And so I'm starting my presentation with that because I'm going to then turn, for me, what feels quite negative. So not really, sort of. I've worked the last 9 years with SaskOrganics and have been advocating and what I say cheerleading and doing all of that stuff with our government. Very little success, which is makes me doubt myself a little bit, but my first few slides helped me come to terms with that. And so I'm going to share those with you. Because one of the things that I'm really good at in other areas is like connecting and networking and getting people to see bigger pictures and how change is possible and those sorts of things. And in Saskatchewan, run up to a few challenges or brick walls in that. Pointer. Oh, there you go. So a friend sent me this cartoon very recently, and I really liked it. So answer is simple and complex. So we're working in a complex environment, really, when we're in the organic sector. And so for me, I put conventional in quotations because I don't really necessarily like to call the non-organic sector conventional, but I needed to figure out a way of, in my own head, differentiating conventional production with conventional regenerative, because I think we're getting really big and a little bit messy in terms of the black and white nature of this agricultural world that we're working in. And I think, say 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it was much clearer, right? Because there were organic farmers were creating a system that was really antithetical to the conventional system. So they wanted to do things differently. And that difference was much easier to contrast. And I think now it's more challenging, a little bit more challenging to contrast. This is all me, and please challenge me if when we get to the questions and answers session. So conventional production, linear thinking, I have a weed, I have to kill it. Prescription farming, talking to your chemical representative or agronomist and them helping you, figure out exactly what the prescription is and how to set the dials on your equipment. And then really the main goal seems to be maximizing yields in the conventional system. Organic production, we're systems thinkers. So if we have a problem, we look at a 4-year rotation to see how we're going to solve it, right? So that requires a stepping back and looking at the whole system of, your farm and your ecosystem. The goal is to farm in harmony with nature, also a little more complicated. And really our ultimate goal is to leave the soil a little better than we found it. And, although we have a lot of work to do in the organic sector, in terms of meeting our aspirations, they are our aspirations that are encoded in a standard. So we also have that going for us, which also makes it a little more complex, a little more costly, a little more paperwork, right, than a conventional farming system. And then I have conventional regenerative just at the bottom question mark. And it's really hard because I feel like they straddle the two worlds a little bit, right? So a lot of the regenerative practices that organic farmers have been using to varying degrees, over the last 30 years are being adopted by conventional regenerative farmers. And that's, for me, in the big picture, a good thing, right? Because if our goal is to have a healthy climate, a healthy, system, then we need everybody to be using less chemicals in their farming. Okay. Advocacy. So then I thought simple governments complex organic sector. And so when I say simple on the government side, what we hear is we want one voice, we want one solution, we want one, right? And our answers are complex. And I think it's excellent and an amazing evolution in the organic sector that we have a Canadian Organic Alliance. I mean, this is part of what we need to do. We do need to come together and, you know, be working together at a national level and across the provinces. But our answers are still going to be complex. And I think, you know, this is me 2 and 2 is 7. I think the government's looking for an easy answer, not one voice, right? And they're different things. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and glad Paul is here to help us out with that. So yeah, so organic complex, and I'll just go to the next slide. So again, this is how I see advocacy in the conventional agricultural lobby world and the organic sector lobby world. Starting off, conventional side, established, integrated, well-funded. On the organic side, less established, we're new, just in general as a sector. Under-resourced, both people and money, which is a constant theme that we're hearing all through the morning. So then the next is like, so what are the issues that we're working on? And again, for me, it's like the, I don't know if it's simple, but you know, working to maintain the status quo. So it's easy for the government, right, to hear this. Other than, then we get into the politics of it all. So I'm coming from Saskatchewan, from a Saskatchewan perspective. So the conventional farmers are saying no to the carbon tax, no to fertilizer emission reductions. Pesticides need to be sustainable and obtainable, meaning cheap and plentiful, and you can get them when I want them. And then we have this is a national one, but we have the tiger teams, which when I first saw it, I thought tiger team, that was related to genetic engineering, that whole thing with crop life. And then I Googled tiger team, and this is like a CIA operative stuff, right? Like this is a way of organizing yourself to do the OPPO research and to truly understand your opponents and like do all of that behind the scenes work to get you where you're going. And we don't really have a tiger team. We have amazing people doing really great work, but to be able to fund something like that, to defend against something like that, that's a big deal. The other big thing right now that all conventional farmers are talking about and worried about is the Bunge-Viterra merger, which is a massive move towards consolidation, even more consolidation in the grain marketing sector. And the thing that makes me the saddest about this, other than the consolidation and the impact that that's going to have on farmers, is the fact that Viterra was originally the Saskatchewan wheat pool, owned by farmers, for farmers, all about pooling, the whole cooperative thing, right? And now is owned by, I don't even know who Bunge's owned by, like, or where they are based. I think it's in Australia. I don't know, or maybe that was Viterra. I get lost in all the mergers and consolidation. And then we both do international. And interestingly, on the Canadian Federation of Agriculture website, they talk about internal trade rather than domestic. I don't know. So, but we both do that, the organic sector and the conventional ag lobby. And I think that's one thing that we do that's really familiar to them. They understand that because that's really quite the whole point of our agricultural policy is to grow lots and export it, extract it, send it on. All right, and then, oh yeah, on the conventional, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they also, conventionals are also talk more about rural affairs as well than I think we do on the organic side. And that's just a capacity like infrastructure, internet, like the things that they need to do business in rural Saskatchewan. And then on our side, always seems to end up in the money. So and it's all been said before, standards review, mechanism to fund national and provincial organizations and more money for research. I'm almost done my slides. Oh, can somebody sort me out, please? I don't even know how I did that. Can I do it again? Thank you. Okay, now we're going to get to the actual topic of today. Oh. So kind of unlocking the Saskatchewan experience. Can I go one more? So this is a 2020 snapshot of production and acres in Saskatchewan. Thanks to CODA and their data work and the Prairie Organic Development Fund who funded this last version that we have done. So you can see over 1,000 producers, 938 of the, operations, 938 producers. Most of those are grain crop producers, 24 organic livestock producers, small but mighty in Saskatchewan. Thank you to those guys and gals. And 110 organic handlers or processors. Then we have lots of acres, almost 1.2 million. Half of those are in field crops, and most of the rest are in green manures and pasture forage. And then here's just to give you a bit of a snapshot of the producer numbers over time. So data first collected in 2014, 2020, here's where we're at, which is basically for the previous slide, and you can see that at our lowest in terms of organic producers, we were at 825, and that was in 2015. So just note that. So just a little bit of a comparison, because it's a pretty sad story in Saskatchewan, I tell you, in terms of organic producers. So here, not looking bad, 2014 to 2020 had some increases, 93 more crop producers, more processors, a few less livestock producers, but overall looking good. Then I compare 2020 to 2022. So we've lost 116 producers, 25 processors, plus 4 livestock producers. So we have more. So that's sobering. And then I did the 2014 to 2022. So again, not as bad, but if you note our organic producer number now at 822 is lower than we've ever been in the province since we collected stats in 2014. Why? That's the big question, right? So why? Drought, grasshoppers, weed management issues, in particular, Canada thistle and bindweed, two perennial weeds that are really hard to get rid of, relatively high conventional prices, retirement, and finally, the lack of funding and program support from provincial governments. So yeah, I really appreciated Eva-Lena's positivity, she was able to pull out the positivity, despite the fires, the floods, the devastation that's happening in BC. But I think that it's also really important to talk about that stuff, because although markets are growing, and everything, if we can't actually grow the product because of climate change, and we're kind of in this vicious cycle, right, where we know that organic agriculture provides part of the answers, a huge part, to contribute to the mitigation of climate change. But have fewer and fewer producers who are certified organic, right? So I don't know how we're gonna figure that all out, but I'm sorry it wasn't more cheerful. We also had floods and fires in Saskatchewan. Yeah. And the biggest challenge, really, I think one of the biggest challenges in Saskatchewan is that our provincial government from the top down is, I don't want to say doesn't believe in climate change, but they don't believe in climate change. Or I shouldn't say that. Not necessarily that they don't believe in climate change, but they don't believe that it's human that we're causing it, right? So why would we bother changing what we're doing? Because we're not causing it. It's just natural cycles, normal cycles, right? If I hear that one more time, just in general, or you say, oh, the drought. Oh, well, we had a drought in 1930. And it's oh, grasshoppers. Oh, they cycle every 7 years. And it's but the context has completely changed, right? So what we hear from climate scientists a lot is that, I was thinking, I don't know, a couple of years ago when the first heat domes are in BC, right? The climate people were saying, it's broke all our models. We don't know what this means or what it means for the future because it's broke our models. So anyway, that's the context we're in. I'll stop talking now. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Oh, yeah, your phone. You can do that. Yeah.
That's your book
Oh, my
and the
ridiculous
clicker.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. So one of the questions we were asked to prepare for this panel was how to adopt an organic action plan federally and provincially with success to help achieve a coordinated effort for organic in Canada. So I will try to answer that question based on the Quebec experience. Hopefully. Anybody have a joke? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So unlocking Canada's organic production potential through appropriate policy. So as mentioned in the introduction, I'm a agricultural economist and I work for the Quebec Farmers Union. So I approach this answer and an element through policy, but try to sneak in some other elements too. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, that's good. Now I have to watch what I'm saying. I did miss that opportunity to say whatever. And if I do this, yes, okay. So this is the timeline I'm going to use to tell the story in different chapters. This is the number of organic operators in Quebec, divided in two categories. We have the organic farms in blue and all other organic businesses, so processors and some retailers that do packaging that need to get certified and everything. And I do want to pay tribute to everyone that came before that, so that pioneered organic practices and that was doing the work before this. So this is not just a finite story, and the future time will tell. Too much. Okay. So yes, I'm going to be focusing on policy, but also, as Mr. Holbeck mentioned, we need market initiatives and collaboration in and a balance between market initiative and policy. So I'm going to be focusing on policy, but the processors and retailers and packagers and everyone in the room that's more involved in marketing, it's a very important part of that story, and we want more product innovation. We want diversity in our organic products, as mentioned in the past presentations. So that's a very important part, and I don't want to neglect that. But yes, I will be focusing on more the producer aspect. So I see it the organic production potential as the innovation curve, where we had the innovators, as I said, paid tribute to what came before, and then the early adopters. And then in Quebec, we're in the early majority phase. I'm not saying that curve is going to go down, but that potential is not finite, but will be limited in the future based on different elements. So the first part of the story is legislation. We have a law in Quebec, la loi sur les appellations réservées, les termes valorisants. So that reserves certain allegations and certain value-added terms with this law. And the organic brand or the organic allegation was the first to use this law to secure legitimacy and protecting the integrity of organic products. So today we have other value-added terms. The latest that we added to the list was farmer's cheese. Farmer. First, we have to define what a farmer is and what farmer cheese is. But this is a very important part of the story, where we had OCIA certification before this, and then we had an official law that would brand the organic Quebec label, which in 2009, then we had federal certification with the Canada Organic brand. And what these here at the bottom are more action plans within the sector. So we talked about mobilizing the sector and more collaboration. And I think that this piece really helped the organic sector define itself and mobilize and collaborate to develop the market. So one part important to think about is recognition. So in 2011, the Ministry of Environment of Quebec, so this is coming not from the Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Environment, published a report on the organic system's contribution to developing sustainable agriculture. And I think that's a very important piece of, so before that, we had more of a sector-based collaboration and mobilizing, and now we had government recognition, which allowed for the second chapter for the Ministry of Agriculture to publish their growth strategy of the organic sector. So this was based on seizing market growth potential. So it was an important piece which involved directly the government, and I'll get back to what was in that strategy. And we see the effect it had on growing the production of organic products in Quebec. And then the latest piece of latest chapter of the story was the politique bioalimentaire, which is the food policy of Quebec, 2018 to 2025, which put organic in there, but it wasn't specific only to organic, but it was more of like a food policy. And organic was in there in terms of responsible business practices and to protect health and the environment. So all these different elements are very important in the evolution of how government recognizes the contribution of the organic sector to policy and to developing to societal issues, basically. So all these pieces of legislation and policy, can serve as a perspective on how to adopt an organic action plan. So the stratégie de croissance du secteur biologique, so the growth strategy 2015 to 2018 was very sector specific to the organic sector. And what government justified adopting this strategy was organic is a source of innovation within the farming sector. It's an ally for the environment. It's got market opportunities, and it's a lever for dynamic land use. We were talking about rural affairs, so that's good to have those recognitions, and it justifies government to take action to develop the organic sector. And then the food policy that I mentioned, food autonomy policy, so basically based on feeding Quebecers with Quebec-made products and Quebec-grown products, put some objectives to double the organic production area. We were aiming at 98,000 hectares in 2025, but we reached that goal in 2019, and we established a new target of 121,000 hectares in 2022. We reached that. And now, well, for government, it's sort of like, check, we did that. And now there's no new targets. So what do we do? So the support measures, so I think we need the policy, and then government needs to justify that policy. And then in the same time, we get recognition of our contributions to society in terms of an organic sector. And then it justifies support measures as well. So we got conversion support. So that's what grew that curve that was there before. Consulting services, so extension services, was 85% paid by government for farmer on-farm consulting services. Money for research, on-farm investments, so different programs to invest in different types of machinery to be able to farm organically, and the promotion of added value in the marketplace. So we've got that balance between policy and market initiative. So now the Quebec government has adopted le Plan d'agriculture durable 2020 to 2030, which is the Sustainable Agriculture Plan. And this for government is very difficult, adopting a 10-year plan, but it was justified in the sense if we want to move towards more environmental practices, we need time, we need accompaniment for the farmers to adopt the practices. And I put a little citation of this plan, which is the plan allows to integrate different organic or different farm practices to respect the environment, including organic, so it's not a sector specific plan, it's a sustainable agriculture plan in Quebec, and organic is part of that. So what we saw done in terms of measures was l'initiative ministérielle de rétribution des pratiques agroenvironnementales, so retribution for on-farm practices, which include crop diversification, off-season soil protection in terms of no-fall tillage, winter cover crops, reducing the use of herbicides, use of non-insecticide treated seed, implementation of biodiversity-friendly practices. So there's retribution for farms that want to integrate these practices on their farm. But as Eva-Lena mentioned too, in BC, a lot of organic farmers have already integrated these practices, and so they're not eligible for these retributions, which is sort of unfair. And now on the federal level, we have the Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership that provinces and the federal government have just signed for the next 5 years. And we have a new program called the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program, which will trickle down to the provinces. And the objective is to recognize ecological goods and services payment approach to support on-farm adoption. So we were a bit ahead of the curve, ahead of them by adopting the plan in 2020, but all the money that Quebec is receiving from the federal program will go into the retribution program. So with this partnership and the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program and the recognition, it's an important landmark, I think, to recognize the ecological goods and services payment approach. And we have now an upcoming federal sustainable agricultural strategy. And what should be recognized in what I'm concerned, ongoing and recurring environmental benefits associated with organic production. So it's not because you're already diversified, you already don't use herbicides, you already don't use treated seed, that you wouldn't be eligible to be recognized and retributed for these ongoing and recurring environmental services. So in terms of an environment, and it's what Mr. Holbeck was telling, like a maintenance program, like a maintenance policy, this is in that category. So with the payment approach, and yeah, I think that's the next piece that we need to find and to make happen. And in the last federal election, the UPA was demanding this. We know the agri-marketing program and the agri-science program. We said we need an agri-vert, an agri-green for this type of approach to retribute the goods and services of the organic sector. Thank you.